Mr. Vegas, welcome back to the program here. Demand for electricity in the state could outpace supply by next summer, I've been reading. That's a worst case scenario that the report has outlined. But what do Texans need to be doing right now to prepare for that, if anything?
Yeah, it's really the report that we published last week really is helpful when you look at it from just a trending perspective. And what the trend is showing is that the state of Texas is growing. The economy is growing. We're experiencing great success in attracting businesses and people because of the great business environment we have here. But with that comes pressure on infrastructure. And what we're seeing is that demand right now is growing at a pace that's faster than what we're seeing on the supply side. And, it takes a little longer to build power plants and transmission lines, as you know. And so what we expect to happen is we expect the market to respond to those kinds of signals. We expect the market to jump in and to start developing the supply resources to meet that demand. And we also think a lot of that demand that's coming to Texas has a likelihood of being able to be flexible, meaning that during periods of scarcity, they can pull back on their usage, which really helps with reliability. And that report doesn't reflect all those nuances. So what's more important is really the trend that it's showing and what we need to do today in order to make sure we address that.
Where will all this new power generation come from? Like you said, it takes a while to build a new power plant, especially a gas power plant, and even to bring on wind and solar takes time. You're against the clock here if this is going on in the next 5 years.
Yeah, but we're maintaining a really aggressive pace of adding generation capacity here in Texas right now. Just since the end of last winter, we've added over 13,500 megawatts of generation supply on the ERCOT grid. That's in less than a year. So we are continuing to add supply quickly, and I think that's going to accelerate as we start to see this demand really firm and start to show up. Now, the big question is always, the timing of when this demand shows up, and that's something that could vary based on the plans of the developers, and frankly, that's something that also could make some changes and make that forecast look a little bit more moderated. So you're right, it showed more of a worst case scenario than a likely scenario, but there are things we can be doing today to ensure that we'll be able to meet that growth reliably.
What do you think is most likely for next summer?
I think for next summer, we're going to see the start of some of these data centers starting to come online. We're going to see, I think, more generation coming online. We're seeing tremendous growth in batteries. We've been doubling the amount of battery generation in the state of Texas every year since 2021. And so we're expecting to do that again this year, which is tremendous. They provide incredible help, especially during those shoulder peak hours when the sun is setting, the sun is rising. And so I think we'll continue to see that support. We'll see more solar coming online. And then with the support from the Texas Energy Fund that the legislature created in the last legislative session, that's going to incentivize the development of more gas supply, which will help to bring some balance to that power supply mix.
Let's look farther out here. You and I have talked about this before. Texas is growing, so is the demand for electricity as well. ERCOT says in the next 5 years that demand for electricity is likely going to double, and a lot of folks are wondering where that all comes from. What do you tell Texans who are concerned, and even businesses who might be looking at Texas to relocate, wondering, is Texas going to have the power that we need?
We are going to have the power we need. We're fortunate that we live and work in an environment where the regulations are low. The ability to connect in customers and power to serve them happens faster in Texas than anywhere else in the country. We also have the ability to build transmission infrastructure faster than anyone else in the country because of the fact that, we are governed and overseen by the Texas legislature and the Public Utility Commission of Texas. And we don't have to get permission from the federal government in order to invest in our power supply and in our transmission supply. So that makes things happen much faster here. And so I know we can keep up with this growth. We've been keeping up with it. We will continue to do so. And that's something that I think I want Texans to be confident that the economy that we're experiencing today is going to bring a lot of benefits, and we'll be able to keep up with it on the reliability side.
The legislature is in session right now. Are there any specific bills that you're watching?
One of the things that we're always focused on is how can we improve and support reliability in the short and the long term. One of the things that's important is the potential to require more flexibility for these large loads that are coming. A lot of these loads that are coming, these customers, they have backup generation right with their facilities. If we can tap into that backup generation during peak periods, that helps to improve reliability right away in the short term. One of the bills that's moving through the Senate right now has that kind of a provision in it. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. But we think that's an important characteristic to help support this growth that's coming.
So if there's a large data center that comes online, obviously, like any television station, they have their own generators. Are you talking about ERCOT potentially being able to tap into those generators if there is a huge demand?
Almost. So what we're actually saying is because these generators, these data centers have this backup generation on site, what they can do is actually run off of their own
Okay.
generators during a peak period. And so we don't have to connect those generators to run on our grid. We just need the data center to run off of it for an hour or two during a peak demand period. That's what we're talking about.
Let's talk about what's going on this week here. Looking at the grid conditions, about 10,000 megawatts or so in reserves right now, which is seems to me to be a lot of pad in case something goes wrong. How would you describe the grid conditions to Texans right now?
The grid's ready. The grid's ready for the cold that's coming our way. It's it's one of those things. The winter is different than the summer. When we have these winter cold events, the peak period typically happens really early in the morning, right before the sun comes up. People start to wake up, get ready for school, it's ready to go to work. And so the things that we look for is how the resources are performing overnight. During the day, well, today's a little bit cloudy, but tomorrow we're expecting it to be a pretty sunny day. During the day, we typically see a little bit of a warming. The battery's an opportunity to recharge. And so we're expecting all of that to be able to be supportive for tomorrow morning. It'll be a little tighter tomorrow, I think, than it will be today because it's going to get colder, and the large portion of the cold front will move through Texas overnight and into tomorrow morning. And then through tomorrow, we expect it to start a trend of warming. And by the early part of next week, it's going to feel like a Texas spring again, back into the 70s.
How close is it going to get tomorrow, do you think?
Well, I think it's going to be a little closer than today. I don't think we're not expecting to have any kind of emergency conditions tomorrow morning, but it'll be a little tighter. But we should have the resources available. We'll be monitoring the performance of the renewables of the traditional power plants all throughout the day and tonight. I'd ask folks to stay tuned to the communications channels that we have out there. We push information out through X, through LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. We also have on our website, theercot.com. We push a lot of information out there. If there's anything we need people to know, we'll communicate it through those channels. I say,
And it's
go ahead.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I think the big focus for an event like this is people really need to think about personal safety of the people and their families, themselves, their pets, and then keeping an eye out for pipes and plants. Do things you can to prevent them from freezing. That's really the focus that people should be having for a winter event like this.
And tomorrow the sun's going to be back out, so I presume that renewables like wind generation, solar generation would be producing more than today.
We'll see more solar generation tomorrow than we will today. And then the wind profile, where we have pretty strong wind today, that's going to be declining as we go through the evening into tomorrow, but then it picks back up again as we get into the weekend. So that just varies, the wind varies more than the solar typically. You can count on the sun rising and the sun setting, so
Right.
you can plan on that a little bit better. But overall, yeah, it looks like we've got enough resources across the front for all of this.
Couple last questions here, Pablo. Winter Storm Uri was 4 years ago this month, and unfortunately, under your leadership and those before you, Texas hasn't experienced anything like this since that. But I'm curious, do you think Texans are getting complacent though that the power is going to stay on despite the demands and the pressure that you guys are under every day?
I don't think we're getting complacent overall. I think there's hopefully some building confidence that the changes that we've made to the ERCOT grid since Winter Storm Uri are having the effect that we wanted. The weatherization programs are having a significant effect. Having new tools in our toolbox, like the firm fuel supply, in case there's a disruption in gas service. We've got more than 4,000 megawatts of power plants that have stored fuel on site. So I think those kinds of changes, we've been talking about them. There's hopefully some confidence that they're going to help support us. But we do keep I want everyone to know, we're thinking about reliability 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. That's all that we focus on. And everything we're doing is to try to keep that reliability where people expect it to be.
You've been in this position 2.5 years, I believe. You've led ERCOT through a number of situations, hot and cold situations. I'm curious, what did you not know before taking this role?
What was interesting was just really getting a feel for just how dynamic the changes in our power system are here in Texas compared to around the country. Things change here literally month to month. The mix of resources that are on the grid are changing every month. The growth on the customer side is really changing every month, and different types of customers. Like we've talked about, data centers, they can be developed much faster than your traditional large manufacturing plants. So the dynamic nature of running this grid is much more operationally complex than people realize. But we also have an incredibly experienced team that's been doing this for decades, and they're ready for the challenges that are ahead of us.
Always good to see you. Thank you for the time.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity to catch up.